Hi everybody. Welcome to Philosophy 60, Deductive Logic 1. My name is Randy Mays and I am the professor for this course. This is a brief orientation video. Please engage it very carefully. It will save you a lot of time and maybe even some heartache as well. So I'm making this video at the beginning of the fall 2020 semester, when most courses are online due to COVID-19. However, this course is not one that has been redesigned in response to this crisis. It was designed from the beginning to be almost an entirely online course. And I think you will experience it as very well organized and fully developed. Right now, you're looking at my personal web page. This is a picture of me doing my best to look dour, demanding, and impatient. The reality of me is that I'm a pretty nice person, but the reality of this course is that it is quite demanding. So it's going to be really important for you to spend some quality time right now deciding whether you are really in a position to do it and to succeed in it. Many of you I know are continuing to deal with difficult situations and maybe expecting that courses this fall will be as accommodating to these situations now as they were in the spring during the emergency shutdown. So it's important for you to understand that this is not at all the case. We are fully back in action, and expectations of student performance have normalized. I do hope you stay in this course, but I also want you to know that many students who sign up for it find it's a little more work than they bargained for. You need to remember this is an Area B4, GE, General Education Area B4 course, mathematical concepts and quantitative reasoning. Deductive logic is not math, but it shares many characteristics with math, including its rigor and an unfamiliar formalism. Okay, so that said, let's go to where the rubber hits the road, and that is the Canvas environment for this course. Okay, since you are watching this video, you've already been here because that is the only way you could have gotten to it. I've got Canvas set to student view, which is your view of the course. The only odd visual difference here is that it's telling me that we're in student view, so that's why you see that strange purple border. So the first thing you've noticed is that there really isn't much here, at least in the sidebar. All we have is a link to home, which is where we are, and then also a Zoom link, which just takes you to the link that will allow you to join class meetings. As you've already seen, the first link is a course orientation video. That's what you're watching now. And then a link to my website, which is really not that important after today. This is a link to my office hours, my Zoom office hours. And the next is a link to a page explaining what class is all about. So it says here that this class meets Tuesday, Thursday, 10:30 to 11:45 a.m. Attendance is entirely optional. When you read the syllabus, you will see that the instructor does not lecture during this period. He answers questions and provides individual tutoring. So you want to treat it as a study lab. You're free to come and go as you please. To attend class during this time, simply click on the Zoom link on the sidebar and then click on the join button. If you click on it at any other time, nothing good will happen. I should note that I will probably be repurposing this orientation video for the spring. So if This course does not have a Tuesday, Thursday, 10:30 to 11:45 meeting time. That is why. Okay, the next link, which is very important, is the course syllabus. So click on that, open course syllabus in a new window, and this will take you to a Google Doc, which has the entire syllabus on it. Now, you're adults. I'm not going to read this syllabus to you. You'll need to do that carefully yourself. But I'm just going to summarize right now the important, the salient aspects of this course. So first, this is a mostly self-paced course. There is no synchronous participation requirement. In other words, there is no time when you absolutely have to be online at the same time as everyone else. There is a class meeting Tuesday and Thursday, but that is effectively a study hall, and whether you come to it or not is up to you. This class meeting time also serves as a designated time for testing, during which you are guaranteed to be available. So you'll not be able to take module tests in this class outside the class meeting time. As you'll see, you won't be online while you're taking the test. You will be at home working on a sheet of paper. But this time will be the only time when you can take those tests. Third, and very importantly, this is a mastery-based course. What this means is that you have to demonstrate high proficiency in each module before moving on to the next one. In practical terms, this means you basically have to get an A, or at least a B+, on a module test before you can move on to the next one. Now, this may sound unfair to you at first, but you'll come to see that it is not. Fourth, your grade is a strict function of the last module test you pass. There are 13 modules. If you pass all 13, you get an A. If you only pass 7, you get a C. Let's quickly scroll down here to the complete grading scale for this course. Click here on the table of contents, go to grading. So you have, this might sound harsh, but you have an F all the way up through the first 5 modules. If you only pass module 5, you have not passed the course. If you pass module 6, for module 6 you get a D, but unfortunately, to get credit for this course, you have to get at least a C-. So the first module test that represents a modicum of success in this course is module 7, achieving a C. This is no mean feat. It takes a lot of work to get to this point. And if you are in any way inclined to say, whoa, that's not so bad at all I really want is a C, I'll be able to do this without paying much attention at all, you are making a colossal mistake. I can't tell you how many students have failed this course because they have allowed themselves to think in this way despite all my warnings not to. And as you can see, the more module tests you pass, the closer you get to the grade you really desire, which is an A. This, by the way, is why there is no use of the gradebook, the Canvas gradebook in this course. I'll explain that to you a little bit later, but we have no need of any because all we need to know is which module test you have most recently passed. Okay, number 5 is that taking and submitting tests in this course requires you to have access to a printer as well as a smartphone. When you're ready to take a test, you request it by email before the beginning of class at an email specified in the syllabus. The test is sent to you, you print it out, you take the test with a pencil and paper, then you take a high quality picture of it and you send the picture of it back to me within the specified time. This sounds like a lot of boogie, but once you get used to it, it goes pretty quickly. Now we'll talk a little bit about the precise requirements for this in a few minutes. Okay, number 6, you need to understand that logic is a skill that requires a great deal of practice. This course requires real discipline in the use of the instructional videos. Earlier, we compared logic to math, but it's also a lot like learning a foreign language. And there is just no way that you learn a foreign language without committing to a great deal of practice and also a great deal of memorization. So this course requires real discipline in the use of the instructional videos. These videos all show you how to develop this skill, and you must be prepared to really engage them, to stop the videos, reproduce on your own what has been done on your own, rewind them, check your work, and repeat this process when necessary. If you simply watch the videos passively over and over, you will get absolutely nothing out of them. You have to really seriously, aggressively engage them. If you tend to think of yourself as someone who cannot learn in this way, somebody who just prefers to sit in class and let the instructor's words wash over you and hope that they sink in somehow, well, you've run out of options, at least for this year. But either way, this is not one of those courses. This, I understand, is a real challenge for many, but the future belongs to those of you who can make this transition. 7, the books for this course are available online and they're very affordable. What I mean by online is not that they're available as e-copies, but rather that you can purchase them online from the bookstore or from Amazon. Let me just scroll down to the book titles. So there's a very tiny, super cheap textbook called Schaum's Easy Outline of Logic Crash Course. And then there's a recommended supplementary text, Schaum's Outline of Logic. These are paperback books. They've been around for a long time. Logic is not a new discipline, so there is no need to make you buy expensive new books. But in fact, and this is very rare for somebody like me, it's not absolutely necessary to buy either of these books. This course is so well developed in terms of the course materials, the problem sets, and the videos that at this point, most students find that they don't need to purchase the textbook. The main reason to do so is if you just like to have hard copy. If you do, I strongly recommend you getting the first one and quite possibly the second one as well. Okay, so with that said, let's go back to the Canvas environment and get a better feel for what it's like to be in this course, and we'll flip back to the syllabus just to look at some of the more detailed descriptions for how to proceed. Okay, so after you have read the course syllabus and then read it again very carefully, and you've made a really strong personal commitment to doing what is necessary to succeed, you will click on this link which says sign up for your test return Google folder. So if you click on this link and open the window, you'll see another folder, another Google Doc. But this is one that you can edit, and the only way that I want you to edit it is to put your first name here, your last name here, and your Gmail address here. Now, I know most of you know what I mean when I say a Gmail address. That is a email address that says @gmail.com. The majority of you already have one. However, the other thing that will satisfy the requirement of a Gmail address is any email address that is registered with Google to be used with Google Utilities. And this would include YouTube, Google Docs, etc. Okay, so what happens after that? What happens after that is at the end of the first week of instruction or so, I will be sharing with you a folder in your Google Drive. Now, again, I think most of you know what Google Drive is. However, if you go to your Gmail or just the regular Google page and you're signed in to your Google account, on the upper right-hand corner, there's always this matrix that says Google Apps. If you click on it, you'll see an icon that says Google Drive, and if you click on that, you will get to your own Google Drive. Now, if you've never used this before at all, then it will be unpopulated and you will probably see your folder right away after I've shared it with you. However, if you have lots of things in your Google Drive, you may need to click on the link on the left-hand side that says Shared with Me. Now, you will actually get an email notification in the Gmail that you share with me that I have shared the folder with you. Okay, so the next question is, what is that folder actually for? The answer is, that is where I return your tests. So now we have the complete answer as to why we don't need to use the grading utility in Canvas. You will have all of your tests returned to you. I will have access to those tests. You will have access to those tests, and you will always know your grade because it's the last grade. It's the grade associated with the last test you passed in your folder. Okay, so we'll need you to do that right away. Please don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Okay, the next thing you do is go to this Memorandum of Understanding. This is actually a kind of quiz. It's not really a quiz because the answer to every single question or statement is yes. Basically, it just leads you through some of the salient points that I'm making here and make sure that you understand how this course works and that you're personally agreeing and committing to abide by its requirements. Okay, after you pass the Memorandum of Understanding, Module 1 is going to open up for you. Right now you can see that it is not available. Each module opens up sequentially. You have to move through them sequentially. You can't skip ahead. In fact, after you finish the Memorandum of Understanding, you will also see this Track Your Progress. So what I'm going to do now is leave the student view so that we can see what it's going to look like more after you have done the Memorandum of Understanding. And what you'll see here is that this link, Track Your Progress, essentially just takes you to a chart that in pretty crude terms tells you how you're doing at any given time. Okay, so if you are trying to be on track to get an A, then by the end of the second week you will want to have passed the first module test. By the end of the third week, the second module test. By the end of the fourth week, the third module test, etc. The B track is a little slower. The C track is a little slower still. I don't have a D track. I don't want anybody shooting for a D. That is not even passing this course effectively. But then there is also the cutoff track. And the cutoff track tells you that you are actually behind the passing grade track. And so at the end of the third week, you'll see that that's the cutoff date for Module 1. And when you get past the cutoff date for Module 1, then things get serious. At that point, you will need to, and we'll see this later in the syllabus, engage me or our instructional assistant, if there is one, and show us that you are really prepared to take each sequential test. So it's very much to your benefit to stay ahead of the cutoff date. If you fall behind it, then that actually creates a great deal more work for you. Okay, you'll also see a Get Tutoring link, which has not actually been activated yet at this point. I'm hoping that we're going to have a very good tutor for this course, but funding is a problem and also expertise is a problem, so we're working on that, and I will be in touch with you during the first couple of weeks as to whether that person will be available to help. Okay, so once you've passed the Memorandum of Understanding, you have access to Module 1, and this course is designed sequentially. There's no guesswork ever about what to do next. So you go to Module 1. This is just a title, The Language of Propositional Logic. If you have the book, you read text chapters 1 and 2. That's the first thing you do. If you don't have the book, if you elected not to buy the book, then you go directly to watching the video Introduction to Logic. Watch it several times until you understand it. This particular video does not have problems to work, but you still want to engage it very seriously. Then you go to the text, read pages 21 through 25 if you have the text. Then you go to this link, which tells you how to study videos for this class. Read it very, very carefully. Then you watch this video, argument forms, logical operators, formalization, etc. And then, having engaged that video completely, done everything that it tells you to do, you are ready to do the Module 1 homework. I'll go ahead and click on this. If you click on it, right, you will see that there is a link to the homework page. Oops, that's not working right now, but we will get it working. Let me just skip down to the Module 1 Homework 2 just to get the feel for this. You click on Homework 2, you'll come to a PDF which you should download and print or not print as suits your study needs. You'll see in this particular one a list of problems, and in this particular sheet the solutions to the problems are always at the end. You are always provided with solutions to all the homework in one way or another. Not just some of the problems, but all of the problems. Okay, now when you finish the last homework, which in this case is Module 1 Homework 3, you're asked in this particular module to do a video quiz. So this is a quiz on YouTube. But then, and this is the case for every module, you are told to take the Module 1 quiz. Now this quiz actually occurs in Canvas, and you have to pass this quiz at a specific level. So this is a 40-point quiz, and you have to get at least 34 out of 40 points. Now let me make it clear to you that that is not a good score. That is not a score at which I would in any way advise you to move on, but that is the minimum score that you have to achieve in order to qualify for taking the Module 1 test. So when you take that test, you'll actually see, and this is true of every single test, that you will sign that test in a place that certifies that you have in fact passed the associated quiz at the associated level. So the Canvas quiz, which I'll just click on now so you can see what it looks like, is a Canvas environment quiz that it typically is a multiple choice quiz. Now, multiple choice quizzes in logic are not very effective tools for making sure you understand the material well. Really, they only establish a very low baseline of understanding, a very minimal level of achievement. But the tests are not multiple choice. The tests require you to actually solve problems, produce formal translations, and to produce ultimately formal proofs. So there is nothing about the quizzes that inform you that you are ready to take the test. They just say that you have achieved a certain minimal level of understanding so that it would make sense for you to go on and work on the next step, which is the practice tests. Okay, and so you can see that here. Take Module 1 practice tests. If you click on this link, what you'll find is practice test 1 and practice test 2, and then a solution to each of these as well, right? So if we click on practice test 1, you'll see the test, okay? And that you will also be able afterwards to get the solution to that test. Now, the nice thing, the very, very important thing about these tests is that they are exactly like the real tests. Now, what I mean by that is not that they have the same problems, of course, but they are structured in exactly the same way. So if you're doing everything correctly, when you finally get to the point where you're ready to take a real module test, you will be fully prepared not only with respect to the content, but what the test will actually look like. Every single test is only on one side of one page. And this is actually a very important formula for making the course work in this format, as I'll explain a little bit later. Okay, so when you take the test, and again, I will review momentarily what the process of taking the test is like, but when you take the test, it will be graded by me, and you will either pass it or you will not pass it. If you pass a test, then you will see a big drawn, hand-drawn smiley face on the test. Basically, that means you're good to go to the next module. If you do not see a smiley face on the test, you will see indicators of where you made mistakes. Now, I do not put a great deal of writing. It is up to you to figure out what those mistakes actually are, either by reviewing the material or talking to me about it in class or during office hours, but they will be unambiguous. If you did not pass the test, if you did not achieve a smiley face, your job is going to be to go back, review, raise your level of understanding, prepare, and take the test again. Now, when you do that, you'll just be repeating the test-taking process, and you will simply get a different test. There are many, many different versions of all these tests, and so unless you are really, really struggling, you will never see the same test twice. Okay, the last link in every says lecture slides and resources. So if you click on this link, what you'll see is that there are the PowerPoint slides for my lectures. Now, it's very, very important that you do not simply look at the rather than the lectures. Do not ever do this, because there is so much more in the lecture than in the slide. The reason I give these to you is because they can be very helpful for review. Okay, so that's what it feels like to proceed through a module. And the entire class is simply a sequence of modules. If we scroll through the page, you'll see, as I indicated earlier, that there are 13 of them. And then if you go down to the very end, this is important, we have some other things going on. So I have closed caption versions of all the videos, which are right here in case you're in need of them. And I also have some errors that have been identified in both of the textbooks, should you be using them. Unfortunately, all logic books, math books, etc., contain errors, no matter how many editions they go through. I should also point out that in some of the modules, the lecture slides and resources link contain other resources that will be useful. So for example, in Module 4, there's a summary of the rules you learned for performing a certain kind of procedure. So make sure you do look at that link, even if you think you don't need it, because it will provide you with some decent study tools often enough. Okay, so before ending this, I want to just pop back to the syllabus and talk about a couple of things that we glossed over. Okay, remember, this orientation video does not substitute at all for reading the syllabus very quickly. Carefully, there are important aspects of the syllabus that we are not covering, so make sure you do that. So, we've already been clear about the nature of attendance. It's optional. You do that through the Zoom link during class time. The Zoom link's at the top of the Canvas page. What we didn't really clarify is the nature of test, request, submission, grading, and return. So I want to be extremely clear about this before we sign off. Okay, how to request to take a test. So testing occurs twice a week within the designated class period. You cannot take a test at any other time. You signed up for this course knowing that it did have specified meetings, and this is what these meetings are for primarily. So when you're ready to take a test, what you're going to do is request it within the first 15 minutes prior to class by sending an email to this Gmail. Okay, this is not my usual correspondence Gmail. I will not correspond with you for this. This is just a place to request tests and also to submit those tests. Okay, so please note, this is not my regular correspondence email. When you're really just corresponding with me, either to get help, clarification, etc., you're just going to want to do that through the Canvas email. So this email is strictly designated for test request and submission. You cannot take tests outside of this period. This is mainly why the class is designated as synchronic in the course schedule. Okay, so when you request a test, you will write in the subject heading of the email, Philosophy 60 test request. In the body of the email, you will write, "Hello, Professor. This is first, last name. I would like to take tests, etc." So, for example, if your name were Brianna Garcia, you would simply say in the body of the email, "Hello, Professor. This is Brianna Garcia. I would like to take test, say, 8 at the beginning of today's class period." So be sure to follow this procedure. Every new test request requires you to create a new email with a new subject heading. Okay, so I told you a little bit about how to take a test. I told you that you needed to have a printer and a smartphone. That is not completely true, but it is mostly true. So technically, there are 3 options for taking a test. One is the one I described to you. The other is to type your responses on the MS Word document that I send you. That's how the test will be provided. And the third is to use an electronic tablet to write your answers directly on the Word document or on a PDF version of the document. Now, option 2 and 3 are not going to be that desirable for most people, but they are available to people who cannot comply with option 1. The reason they're not going to be all that desirable is because both typing and using an electronic tablet is pretty cumbersome for most students compared to writing on paper. The reason that typing, option 2, is cumbersome is because there's lots of unusual symbols used in this course. So these symbols can be found in the symbol font in Microsoft Word, and you can create hotkeys for each of them to speed up typing, but you still may find keyboard entry very frustrating. Option 3 might be desirable for some of you who've already developed excellent tablet skills and have one, but you've really got to be good at it. What you turn in has to be perfectly legible, and it has to occur all on the page that I send you. Okay, the testing conditions. Testing is not a collaborative activity, and you're not permitted to communicate with anyone during the testing period. You can use your notes, but you'll quickly discover that the only way to pass a test is to have no need of them. Normally, you'll have 1 hour to return the test. The test is designed to be completed in 40 minutes. Often you will complete it much more quickly than that. And you're provided 20 minutes for the time required to print it and submit it, which is much more than the time that you really need. But if you return it late, then it won't be graded. So how do you submit a test? Well, regardless of the option exercised above, the test must be returned as a single PDF. You may not submit it in any other format, and you may not submit multiple documents. The PDF must be given a file name using this protocol, lastname.test.fil60. So for example, if your last name is Schmutz and you are submitting test 5, the file name must be schmutz.test5.fil60. Okay, now here is a more complete description of how you do that for each of the options. For option 1, use the camera on your phone or your computer to take a high quality picture of your test. Be sure that the test is well lit, in focus, and shot so that the top and the bottom of the document are even. You may not simply attach this image to your email from your camera. That's a very important thing to understand. You must first convert it to a PDF. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do this, but for most of you, the easiest way to do this will be to A, send the picture to yourself and download it to your computer, B, right-click on the file and click Convert to PDF, C, attach the PDF to the email thread in which you requested the test, and D, send it to me within the specified time. Now that sounds complicated, but I know you are all used to doing much more complicated things like this on your phone and computer, and you'll find very quickly that it's a pretty simple, straightforward experience. On days when you are finding the process irritating, just think about how cumbersome it is to get in a car or get on a bus and come to class to take the test in person. There's really no comparison. Okay, now the good things about options 2 and 3 is you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is save the document as a PDF, since you'll already be working directly on your computer, attach it to the email thread in which you requested the test, and send it within the designated time. So options 2 and 3 make submission easier, but they make taking the test quite a bit more cumbersome. So I take it from there. I grade the test, I give you feedback, I give you a smiley face, or I give you an indication of what you have to do to pass the test next time. I take that annotated test and I drop it into your personal folder, and that's where you'll find it. Usually I get this done pretty quickly. Sometimes it's within an hour of you taking the test, but always by the afternoon. So don't wait long to check. If you don't see that test in your folder by late afternoon, feel free to ask me what's up. In fact, don't just feel free to do it. One very important thing is that if you don't see it, make sure you refresh your browser, because usually that's what's going on. It doesn't show often if you've just had a browser open for a while and it hasn't been refreshed. Okay, we've already been through the process of signing up for that folder, and we've already explained what the retesting process is like. It's just more of the same. You may be wondering, how many times can you retake a test? The answer is that there's no definite limit. You're limited only by the cutoff dates described above and the fact that you may only take one test per class meeting. Now, everybody fails to pass a test at one point or another, and I mean everybody. I've never had a student who never failed a test on the way to Module 13. But if this is happening multiple times, if you're having to take the test 3 or 4 times, then you've definitely got a problem, because there just won't be enough times to take the test, and it's also just a clear indication that you're not preparing adequately for them. Okay, so that is the end of this orientation video. I will be happy to clarify anything that you didn't understand from it during the first day of class and thereafter. All right, see you in class.